Hello, my name is Brenda Corzette. I am the middle school math teacher. I am here today to tell you a little bit about middle school math. First thing I want to talk about is the room that I have is so cool. I have about 2/3 of the top floor of the mansion, and I want to show it to you because it is really a nice room. We have so much room here, and the students can really spread out, socialize, social distance. And the coolest thing about this room is this wall up here. It is been painted with the paint that changes, that makes a surface into a dry erase board, a whiteboard. And this whole big wall is a dry erase board, which is so cool because the students in middle school, they love going to the board and doing problems. So I try to do that as much as I can. It's kind of hard with the social distancing thing, but I can still get 2 or 3 students up there and they will volunteer to go up to the board before they even know what the question is. That is cool. I do teach middle school math. I teach the 6th grade. It's called Algebraic Principles. Here's the textbook we're using. It's a little different than what you would see in public schools and other schools. This is Singapore math. This is the last year that we use Singapore math. We've used it all the way through elementary. It's a 2-book series, so it looks pretty thin, but we're actually on the 2nd book. We go through a book a semester. So we clip along pretty good in this book. In 6th grade, we work on solving equations, solving one-step equations. We do perimeter, circumference, surface area, volume, probability and statistics. And I introduced them to that whole concept of pi, that 3.14 number. To a lot of them, that's new. And we have some fun with that. What is pi? Not that dessert that you eat, but something different. We've named this curriculum for 6th grade algebraic principles for a reason. It's because 6th grade is when they're really introduced to that whole concept of algebra. They've never had a variable before really in math that they've had to deal with. So the whole idea of what's x and how is x related to math and how do I solve a one-step problem? What if I have like 2x equals 16? Well, what could that x be? That's that solid foundation that we're just starting. So that's why we call it algebraic principles. After 6th grade, they move into 7th grade, of course. And we do change curriculum at that point. We move into Prentice Hall math. This is the teacher's edition. Pre-algebra. All the 7th graders take pre-algebra. And what do we do there? We continue on with that foundation of math, that foundation of algebra, building on it a little more. We do things like we continue solving equations. We may get into 2-step equations instead of just one. We start writing equations. We look at inequalities. We work a lot with fractions. They do not like fractions, but they need a lot of work on fractions. We work on exponents, ratios, proportions, and percents, graphing linear functions. Yes, we introduced that idea of functions, a one-to-oneness, and what is a function? And we work on area, volume, and if time allows, we can even get into that sine and cosine and tangent. And what are those buttons on your calculator that you have never used before? As well as the Pythagorean theorem. And then our 8th graders, they all move into algebra, algebra 1. And again, this is Prentice Hall math. This looks a lot like your basic textbook that you would see in other schools and public schools. In algebra 1, we focus in on all the basic algebra things. We solve multi-step problems. We graph equations. We use substitution and elimination to solve systems of equations, two equations, 2 unknowns. We look at inequalities. We look at graphs and functions. Again, we do more functions. We look at exponents. Sometimes they struggle with those exponents and all those rules of exponents. And then we get into polynomials, in solving polynomials, and we have to look at their factors and everything, and look at their graphs, and how does a polynomial graph? Well, it's a parabola, and we can have fun with parabolas. Then we get into, finally, that quadratic equation, which is the big ta-da at the end of the year. This is what we've been working for, is being able to solve any quadratic formula that they are given, and they've got so many different tools to solve these quadratic equations, and if all else fails, they can use that quadratic formula. And we learn different songs too that help them memorize the quadratic formula. Then our 9th graders, they move into geometry, and this is again Prentice Hall. And this is, again, the teacher's edition of the book. This is what it looks like that we're using currently. We look at reasoning and proof. And in geometry, we really stretch their mind to look just past, well, what relationship is there between two triangles that maybe are congruent. We prove that two triangles are congruent by, well, what's the minimum we need to be able to prove these two triangles are the same, or maybe they're similar. So we look at similarity, we look at proofs, and some of them really like proofs, others not so much, but we try to have fun with them. We look at parallel and perpendicular lines, we look at congruent triangles, again, similarities. Right triangle trigonometry, again, sine, cosine, and tangent. We look at real life situations when sine, cosine, and tangent can be useful. We look at transformations, area, surface area, volume, and circles. That's just an overview of what the curriculum here is in middle school math. And I'll tell you what, I love teaching at Rivermont because these kids are so hungry for knowledge. They are so wanting to know what's the next thing, how can I solve that next problem. And discipline-wise, they're a great group of kids, students. So I really encourage you to check out Rivermont. I, again, love the school, great group of students. I'm sure your son or daughter would love to come here. So that's it for middle school math. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.